Hey. Brian, give us an A.
Hey.
Awesome. Welcome back. This is great. So we decided to have a Brian part 2 because Brian, you're like famous, dude. I had people calling me and talking to me from all over about the funniest guy they'd ever heard and how awesome and kind you are. How have you been dealing with all this fame?
I didn't really know because Allison found out about it. We were driving back from work and she said, "Guess what? I heard your podcast." I said, "Oh, I didn't know that."
Yeah, and there's lots of people who listened to that episode and loved it. They loved hearing your stories, and it sounds like there's quite a few more that you have to share with us and that we're going to talk about today. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right.
The other thing is that came out of you being on last week is we kind of figured out exactly how we want to direct the podcast and how we love doing interviews and getting to know really special people and different stories. So for our listeners, Mom,
Hey, Mom.
for our listeners out there, we are looking to interview people who have interesting stories, who have something unique to tell. We've already have some people lined up, but we're going to be doing this a lot. So Brian has helped us realize that the interviews are so important to what we're doing because it seems like you as the listeners want to hear what other people have to say besides us unprofessional morons.
And there's so many interesting people, different talents, experiences, setbacks even. Like, we're just excited to hear, perspectives from different people in different walks of life. And Brian being one of those. And, we've already interviewed a couple others. And so we're just super excited about it. And, Brian has helped give us that direction. So.
And reach out to us if you know anybody. Like, seriously, we'll interview anybody pretty much. We've already got, like I said, a few that are going to be super awesome coming up, but we'd love to meet everybody and anybody who wants to do it, So.
Yep. So let's, why don't we start part 2 here, Brian? I know that, we really, really loved hearing your experiences last time and want to go back to a few of your stories that you have to share with us. Where do we start, Ben? Is there one you want to start with?
Well, I just wanted to point out, Brian, tell us about your shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeehaw! That's the Dukes of Hazzard that I used to watch when I was growing up.
Yeah, did you just ramp that car off your head? Why'd you do that?
It was the car jumping, right?
Yeah, because in the Dukes of Hazzard show, they jump off bridges and stuff. And so I did it off my head.
That makes more sense. Yeah, so your shirt, the General Lee, right?
Yeah.
Dukes of Hazzard car. I just noticed that. It's a really cool shirt. I really like it.
Thanks.
And also sitting here with your fresh haircut.
Yeah, I just did that. The bishop did.
Did you do all that just to get ready for this podcast? Because it's going to be so good.
No, I hate hair, and I hate taking care of it. I hate combing it. I hate washing it. And back when I was living with my mom and dad wouldn't let me do this. So now that I live with Jeff and Allison, I can do it.
And the bishop shaved your head? Nice, dude. That actually reminds me. So, like I said, we're having Brian on again today just because of all of the requests for more Brian. So we're happy to have him. But another thing is Brian had thought of a few stories about some things that he wanted to share that he didn't get a chance to share last time. So we've heard some of them that are super funny. But one of the things you had talked about was taking showers on Saturday and how Saturdays when you were littler, right? Tell us a little bit about that story.
Well, my mom would always say, "Brian, you need to take a bath." And I'd go, "Okay, Mom." So I'd take off all my clothes and go across the street over into Cannon Yard, and Mom would yell, "Jeff, get Brian."
Where would you go?
Over to the Cannons.
Okay, so to your neighbor's house, and then did you like knock on their door?
No, it was just out front. I didn't want to take a bath.
And did you say how old you were?
I think I must have been like 8 or 9 years old, because every Saturday night it was bath night, and I hated to take baths. So I would take off all my clothes, run across the street, and my brother was over there, and my mom would yell, "Jeff, get Brian."
You know what? You probably hadn't discovered how much you love shower curtains at that point, because maybe that would have kept you in the bath. Yeah.
No, I didn't even know anything about shower curtains or shirts or anything back then.
Okay.
But it also sounds like you running around naked was kind of a constant thing when you were little, huh?
Yeah, and I stripped in church.
In church?
In church? Tell us about that.
Well, I didn't want to go to Sunday school, so my dad would say, "Brian, you need to go to class." And he left. My dad wasn't in where I was, and so I was in the gym. I stripped and put the underwear on my head and then ran.
You put your underwear over your head?
Yeah, the leg of it was like this, and I was running around in the church naked.
Oh, Brian,
That's so funny.
that's funny. Maybe I should try that one day.
Like every kid has that time when they run away from their parents, out the door into the street naked. That's really funny.
So one of the things your brother talked to me about was you learning to ride a bike, and how that changed your whole freedom perspective,
Yeah, I used to walk around. I would put animals, or stuffed animals, not real ones, stuffed animals in a wagon, and I'd walk around the neighborhood with the wagon. And my brother said, "Brian, why do you want to walk around? Why can't you just ride a bike?" And I said, "I don't know how." And I got the bike one day. Jeff was gone or something. I got the bike one day, and I thought, I'm going to try and ride this thing. And so I got it out of the garage. I was pushing with my feet, and Amy Matson came out. "Brian, what are you doing?" And I said, "I want to ride the bike." And she said, "Well, why don't you put 1 foot here, 1 foot here, and then you push?" And I thought, "Oh, okay." And so then I put my feet on the thing. I got it to go, but then I thought, now how do I get it to stop? And I thought, oh, feet. And I put my feet down and stop.
Yeah. So you learned to ride your bike all by yourself? You taught yourself?
Amy Matson taught me, and she said, no, to stop the bike, because back then you pushed back.
Right.
And she said, no, you push back to stop. And I thought, oh, okay. And then I pushed back and I stopped.
But did she hold the bike for you, or were you able to balance it all yourself?
She held on to it for a minute, and then I got going. And then once I got going, then she said, okay, now how are you going to stop? And I thought, oh, feet. And I put my feet down, and she said, no, you push back. And then I thought, oh. And that's how I started riding a bike. And ever since then, I've ridden bikes.
I see. So before you learned to kind of pedal backwards to stop the bike, you were actually putting your feet on the ground and dragging them to stop. Gotcha.
Yeah.
How many tries did it take you? Do you remember? Were you having to try to balance to ride the bike for a long time, or was it you picked it up right away?
I picked it up right away, and actually Jeff, Jenny, Jana, Katie, well, Katie wasn't living yet, but Jeff, Jenny, Jana, they all were like, Brian, why do you walk around? Why don't you ride a bike? And I said, I don't know how.
Well, and now you're like master bike rider. Like this, so Brian likes to ride around. He'll go all the way to Sandy, which is like, I mean, he'll ride like 20, 30 miles in a day. And the other day he rode all around Sandy and it was 100 degrees outside. And he still did it. Carrying a trailer and an RC car and
it was loaded with shirts.
and loaded with shirts.
With at least one flapping in the wind.
Yeah, on the back of the bar, on the trailer.
On the trailer.
And I rode all the way from here all the way up to Sandy, and then I rode all the way back from Sandy. And my brother and Allison, I think Jordan and AJ and Jake were in the car, and Willow, the dog. And I came back, and I was tired, so I stopped the bike, put the kickstand down, and I was laying on the lawn on the side of the road. There was a neighbor's yard I was laying in, and Jeff, luckily they went the way they went by the junior high, because that's the way I came home. And luckily they went that way, and they saw me, and they thought, what are you doing, Brian? I said, I'm tired. I rode all the way back from Sandy to Draper, and that's as far as I made it, to that neighbor's yard, and laid on the lawn.
Do you take enough water with you when you go?
No, actually a neighbor where I was offered me a Gatorade.
Oh,
and
good.
I had a Gatorade.
He has like 1,000 friends along every road, so he always knows where to go to find somebody.
Yeah, or find somebody that gives me shirts, but I can't collect them anymore.
Right. What about, with all the years you've been riding a bike, have you ever had like a bad crash?
Oh yeah, I was being stupid. I put bricks in a wagon. And I was riding around in Old Colony Circle. The wagon got loose. I hit the wagon and I flew over the bars of the bike and hit my chin. And when I did that, I hate the seeing blood. I turned all white, and so I was sitting on the road. Grant Cannon came up the street, saw me sitting there, and looked at my chin and said, "Oh, Brian, you just gashed your chin." And I thought, how? And he said, "You hit the wagon." And I flew, and I landed on the ground. And so he helped me up, took me in his house, called my mom, and my mom came over to Cannon's and saw me in the house and said, "Oh, we got to take you and get some stitches." So Grant Cannon and my mom rode in the same car with me to the doctor.
So do you have stitches under your chin right now? Yeah, or a scar?
Yeah, it's a scar.
Yeah. Nice. Well, that's no good, dude. That was a long time ago?
Yeah, that was when I was growing up. We would ride wagons or bikes. We'd get up the top of Schreier's Hill because it was a steep hill. And we'd get up there and then ride down, or we'd go on to Castle Lane. That was a steep hill, and ride the wagon down that.
That's awesome. That's probably part of why you like fast things, right?
Yeah.
Fast and the Furious. You're Fast and Furious, Ryan.
Yeah, and when I was growing up too, we, the Schreiers, that was Schreiers, I would always want to ride the go-kart. They had a go-kart, and I'd go get the go-kart. I knew how to start it because it was one of those like lawnmower engines. I'd start up the go-kart, and I'd go, "I'm going to go for a ride." And so I'd start it up and push the gas. I rode all around on the go-kart because back then it wasn't against the law to drive stuff like that on the road. So I went clear down to the church.
Well, I mean, I know this, but it sounds like you have a billion friends that are there to help you and stuff, and obviously we're your friends.
Tell us a little bit about, you were telling us when you were younger, you had a friend that helped you learn to ride your bike. It sounds like you maybe borrowed your brother's bike at first. When did you get your first bike that was yours? And also, where did you get the awesome trailer and RC car that you have now? I think we talked a little bit about the RC car last time, but what about the trailer?
Well, actually, the trailer was Meekum's sister's brother's trailer. And he wasn't using the trailer anymore. And I wanted it. I had a trailer already, but I wanted another trailer to put the shop vac and all that in it. And then I decided, well, I'm not really doing any car washing really. So then I started putting shirts in it.
Nice. Gotcha. So aside from me and Ben, who are some of your friends that you like to be around, and why are they important to you?
Well, back in Sandy, where I met Peter, the way I met Peter was I was asking for old button-up shirts. And that's how I met Peter.
And so did he ask you about the shirts and why you wanted it, and then he gave you one?
He actually gave me more than one. He gave me a lot.
How many? Like more than 10? More than 20?
Probably 20.
Wow.
I was just looking at my phone. There, your brother was talking to me about another story of you playing cars in church, and how you would use
Oh yeah,
your hand.
I would jump my hand off people's heads, and it was in sacrament meeting. As we'd go in to sacrament meeting, there was a guy on the back row, and I go, and I pulled his toupee off.
You pull this toupee off with your hand, and what'd you do? Like, did it just fall on the floor? Is it on your hand? What happened?
It was in my fingers, and Jeff said, "Brian, do you know what you did?" I said, "No." And he said, "You pulled that guy's hair off."
So did you just give it back to him?
No, I threw it on the ground.
So I wish we had some video. We're going to get there. But Brian was showing us how he did it. So you weren't actually playing with cars. Your hand was the car, right?
Yeah.
And so you would take your hand and you would kind of rev it on people's heads, kind of, rubbing it back and forth, and then you would take off.
I was doing it like that, and it got stuck.
And the toupee got stuck in your fingers.
Did he get mad at you?
Well, he looked at me like, where's my hair? Oh, was that your hair? And he said, yeah. And I said, oh, it's on the ground.
And well, that's good that he wasn't super mean about it.
No.
Did people get mad at you?
Only just because I used to rub everybody's head at Mutual, at DAP. And he said, "Brian, not everybody likes you to rub their head."
In fact, last week when we asked you, what the key to happiness is, really, it's a golf cart with a shirt tied to a stick.
Flapping in the wind.
Flapping in the wind.
Yeah, and I will still do that even if it's hot, because I remember when I was growing up, the first car we had no air conditioning, windows down, going 60 miles an hour. That was our air conditioning.
So, Brian, this week, special week, You know what's coming up in a couple days? We just got into July, and so
It's the 4th, and actually said to Allison, why don't we go to a movie? And she said, what movie would you want to see? And I said, The Quiet Place.
okay. And did you go see it already?
Yeah, we already saw it once. I like it so much because I like the
All the explosions and things like that. With the holiday that's coming up, how do you feel as an American?
good.
What about being American makes you? How does that make you feel to be an American, to be in this country and be who you are and where you are?
I like the freedom.
And it seems to me that you do very well to take advantage of your freedom, going around and helping people. By the way, how are, let's see, it's tomorrow is, we're recording a day earlier than we usually do, but tomorrow you're going to have a busy day, right?
Taking out the gar. Boo! Jaw.
That's exactly right. Are you going to get to see some fireworks this week?
I don't know because I don't really care that much about it.
Okay.
Because when I was a kid, we'd see fireworks, but Mom and Dad, when I was growing up, they didn't really care. And back when I was growing up anyway, we went to my Aunt Madge's, and she lived by Sugar House Park. And we'd go over to Sugar House Park around evening time just to watch the fireworks.
That's a big show. That's a good one.
At Sugar House?
Sugar House Park, yeah, they've been doing that for years and years.
Well, this last week I went to the Taylorsville Days, which is a big, huge show that you grew up going to all the time. Yeah. And I went to it, and when I was there, I went to one of my parents' friends' house, and they know your boss. Because it turns out I went and talked to the lady who lives there, and she's like, hey, I listened to your podcast, and I heard Brian, and you're never going to believe this, but he was my daughter's husband's cousin? No, I don't know, some relationship there, and they're related to your boss, Scott, and, I mean, it's crazy how many people know you. That's why I was talking about your famous life that you lead.
Yeah, well, I like working at Scott Clark's because I hate cleaning the house, but I like cleaning the car.
That's good. Yeah, you mentioned that you're, what kind of shape did you leave your bed in today?
My bed's erd.
Okay, so we got to explain to people what erd means, right? Because people not sure what that means, so...
It's short for wreck. Like when I would play the game at home, instead of wrecking the couch, it's couch.
Couch. Or when you got that cut on your thumb, you called it thumb.
Yeah, well, that happened because...
Well, we don't need to talk about how it happened.
Yeah, because I was playing with the window.
Yeah, he was playing with a window broke, magically, and hurt the thumb, right? Yeah, so that's what you just said. We were walking up the stairs, and he looked into my daughter's
room, and the room's erd.
Yeah, it's erd, because it is not clean right now. Yeah, she's packing for a trip we're going on, but it was pretty funny. So you also used to call it erd couch because you said you take
pillows and throw them down in the basement. I'd call it the pit.
Why? What do you mean the pit?
Well, instead of calling it the basement, I got the idea of the pit because it was like our basement was unfinished, so I call it down the pit.
And anything that went down there would just disappear. You'd never see it again in the pit. That is so funny. You need a second to catch your breath.
And anything I would do would be funny. Like I'd the car, the seats,
You'd like put them down. That would be
and I'd take the back seat out.
nice.
Wait, was there something about trash in the car? Did we talk about that last week?
No, there was shredded my brother. I would always get mad at Jeff, and I'd say, "Oh, I know how to get back at him. Shred the garbage in the car," because he'd drive our Suburban, and I'd shred all the garbage in the Suburban and then leave it. And he made up a song: shredded garbage in the car. Brian, clean it up.
I didn't know Jeff was so vocally talented.
Did he like play a guitar while he sang that? Yeah.
Yeah,
Air guitar or real guitar?
real.
Oh, really?
So he'd make up songs with you and stuff.
Yeah, and then when I was growing up too, like we did to the van.
Yeah,
with the,
where we took the seats out to vacuum it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would take the third seat out, put the needle down, and then I'd get blankets and make a car fort and sleep in it.
Car fort.
That's amazing.
Well, it's short instead of saying car camping, I liked forts. So you'd make, like with blankets, you make a fort. And so I would make a car fort with blankets. And then get my bed and put it in the car.
Wait, you were able to fit your mattress in the car, or was it like in a truck bed?
A big Suburban.
It's Suburban.
Oh, the Suburban, the same Suburban. Gotcha.
It was as big as Ben's van when you put the seats down and you take the other ones out. And I like doing that. But too bad I don't have a van to do it with.
Yeah.
To make a fort and put the bed in it.
Well, Ben has one.
Yeah. So Brian, we've hit our time that we're shooting for. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to everybody on this 4th of July weekend, or anything out there to anybody you want to say?
Just have fun earning couches and taking seats out of cars.
What, as we're getting ready to wrap up here, Brian, what do you want people to know about you?
I like to laugh at funny things. Like I was talking to Ben earlier downstairs about getting a shower curtain and strapping it on the golf cart.
And what about when you get to the end of your time on Earth and you leave, what do you want to be remembered for?
Well, liking shirts flapping in the wind, shower curtains flapping in the wind, and taking people's jaw out.
Well, I can promise you're going to be remembered for a lot of great things, and we sure enjoy talking to you, Ryan.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, you're one of my best friends, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
You
Well,
betcha.
do you remember how we end it? Remember last time what we said? In case we don't see you again. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.